What is up, YouTube? Today we're going to fix this thing. There's a couple of things that need fixing, and a couple things that need improving. So, one of the things is the axle bent. Me and my friends were riding. I was on this thing, and I went to the grass, hit a rock that I didn't see, and it bent the axle. And so great. And some of you may know that I already had to replace this axle before because the original axle snapped right here, just cleanly in half, and so I had to go back and cut everything off and then re-weld it on. The reason I had to weld all the stuff to the axle is because this is just a normal 3/4 inch axle that has no keyway. And these tires have a 3/4 inch hub that have no keyway, so I had to weld it on. So therefore, I also had to weld the brake and the sprocket onto everything. That's why I had to weld it. So really didn't want to have to, but I had to anyway. So it's bent. You really can't ride it, you know. So so I'm going to fix it because what kind of go-kart is there that you really can't just ride it as hard as you want and just beat the hell out of it? You know, if you can't beat the hell out of it, it's not a go-kart. So so I went on BMI, gokarts.com or something, and I bought this. This is the exact same size as these tires. These are 15 by 6 by 6, and these are also 15 by 6 by 6. I really didn't want to have to buy brand new tires. I really wanted to use the original tires because if you look closely here, you can see there's almost no wear on these tires, which is awesome. And I've been doing just crazy burnouts and just crazy shit and just completely like like hitting full throttle, going as fast as this thing can, and then hitting full brake, just having the tires completely stop, and I just skid on the concrete. And you can see just no wear on these tires. So these tires are awesome. So what I wanted to do was find a rim for these tires that would fit these. And I wanted to just buy a rim that had a 1-inch bore. And I found them, and the rim was $30. And then I also found these tires, which has the rim and the tire, for $40. So for $10 more, I get the whole tire versus just a rim that I have to pull that off and just do a bunch of crazy stuff to it. So I just bought the whole tire, and then I bought the 1-inch axle, and so hopefully this is not going to bend. I would be very surprised if it did bend, but it's not going to bend anyway. So I'm just going to use these new tires, and then if they ever wear out, I'm just going to replace those with these and just swap out the hubs. And that's why I got the exact same size. And while I was also online ordering stuff, I noticed that torque converters were on sale. So originally they're like $200. I got this one for $140, which is still a lot. This torque converter was $40 more expensive than the motor. So anyway, I bought it just because the clutch does this weird, just makes this weird noise when I accelerate. So I bought this torque converter just to make this thing even that more cooler. So I also got bearings, everything I think I need to put everything on. And then after I get everything put on, the new tires, the new torque converter, I'm going to paint this thing. The frame is going to be black, and then everything not attached to the frame, like the tie rods, the steering rod, the accelerator, the brake, everything not really bolted, everything not attached to the frame is going to be red, plus the rims. I'm gonna thinking about painting that one. It kind of looks silly if I didn't, so I'm probably gonna paint that. I'm gonna paint the rims of each of the tires red, and then everything else black. So this thing is gonna be really cool. And then, and then I have this primer, And then I have this enamel, which is the last coat, and this is gonna take, I'm gonna do like 2 or 3 coats on this, and it has to dry for 24 hours in between. So it's gonna take me around 3 or 4 or 5 days to completely paint this thing, which that'll be really fun, especially in the rain. So yeah, that'll be fun. So I think I have everything I need to put everything on. I also bought this 1-inch conduit that fits over this. This is a 10-foot piece of conduit. That was $7. It was pretty cheap, but still, it's 10 feet. I didn't need that much. That was the smallest they had. What I'm going to use it for is cut little pieces and then slide it on here, and then so it has use it like stoppers. I have no idea what they're called. So I'm going to use that. I got the bearings, got the torque converter, got some steel. The thing that's that I need to do to put on the torque converter is because the whole torque converter aluminum whatever thing that attaches to the motor, it goes right here, and it's in the way of the sprocket. So what I got to do is I got to lift up the motor about 3 or 4 or 5 inches. So it's not gonna be too bad. It's just gonna kind of be up here. It's not that big a deal. So and something else that went wrong is my air filter broke off of this thing. You could see it in the fail video. I was on ice up on that road, and I lost control, hit a fence, and it just broke this thing off. And then I duct taped it back on, and then while I was riding, it fell off, and I didn't notice, and I can't find it. So which now, thanks to no air filter, there's a bunch of dirt inside my carburetor, which is very nice, and it's now destroying my motor. So it'll be nice, and eventually I have to replace this motor, which is not that bad. It's only $100, you know. I've spent how much money on this thing? What's another $100? So so now what I got to do is I got to find another air filter that I can just bolt onto here, because I really can't do that. What I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna go to some car shop or something, find like a high performance air filter, just put it on there. Maybe red would be cool because it would match the frame. So I believe I have everything I need to rebuild this thing basically, and then what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna strengthen up the frame. It tweaks really badly because there's really only 4 metal posts that completely, hold everything together. So I'm just going to kind of strengthen everything up, fix a few welds, and hopefully it won't snap in half because of it. So, yeah, first things first is take this old axle off, and then cut off the brake, cut off the sprocket, and then put on the new axle and brake and sprocket and tires. So that'll be cool. Alright, I got the new axle put on and the new tires. Everything looks really good. Looks awesome. I had a thought about taking a third bearing and putting it right here and then bolting it onto here, so therefore the torque of the motor would go directly to the bearing, or directly to the shaft through the bearing, and it wouldn't go all the way out through the frame, out to here, and out to the bearings, and out to here, and out to this bearing. It would go directly from the motor plate down to the shaft. I was thinking about doing that. It would just be a safety thing, just to make sure this is not going to bend or break or anything. It probably won't. I'm not going to do it because if you've ever tried to put 3 bearings onto one axle, getting them perfectly lined up, perfectly bolted down, and to where they're not, to where they're perfectly in a line, it's a nightmare to do it. So I'm not gonna do it because it's just too hard, and so hopefully it was just a precaution thing, just to make sure that this whole plate is not just gonna snap or crack, or anything's gonna bend. So probably not gonna do it. It's too hard. So the next step is to take the old tire assembly, cut off the old brake drum. I was thinking about buying a new one, but they're $20, and this one's in pretty good shape. So I didn't buy a new one. Next, and then cut cut off the old sprocket. I don't need the hub, I just need the sprocket because I have a new hub that'll fit the new axle, the new 1-inch axle. So, should be simple enough. Alright, I cut off the old mounting plate and I welded on these little things all the way around the mounting plate, and then just to raise it 4 inches, and then I tacked it back on to the frame before I finished welding this whole thing, just to make sure this thing is positioned properly, and it is. Everything works perfectly on this thing. It's just the right height. It's a little tall, it looks kind of weird, but who cares. And so it all works now. All I gotta do is just finish welding it and put everything back on. Okay, I put it all together and everything's on. The torque converter's on, the rear axle is on. What I did was I just took that conduit and cut pieces that perfectly fit the size in between everything, and then tightened these bolts so it holds everything together, and then bolted the bearings onto the frame. So holds everything on. The brake is good. Torque converter's on. It works. It doesn't spin that freely though, which hopefully, I don't know, but whatever. So the motor's probably almost as tall as the seat. Kind of looks a little goofy, but whatever. I don't care. So I'm gonna test it, make sure everything's working. If there's anything wrong with it, I can fix it now instead of after I paint it. So if everything is working, I'm gonna strip this thing down and paint it. If it's not working properly, fix it and then paint it. So yeah, looks awesome. Okay, I tested it, and there was one major thing wrong with it, is I didn't account for the gear reduction a torque converter has. So this was the original sprocket that was on there. This is a 48 tooth, and I had to put on this sprocket, which is a 36 tooth. I don't know if you can see that. 36 right there. 36 tooth. So it's a 12 tooth difference, and makes all the difference in the world. This thing is now way faster. It has incredible power. As you can see, I got it really dirty just testing it because it's been raining for the past couple days, and it's really hard to keep go-karts clean. So yeah, you don't really want to give too nice of a paint job because you're never gonna want to ride it. So anyway, whatever. Now everything works. It has incredible power, incredible speed, which is awesome. And one thing I had a problem with is when I first tested it out with the smaller sprocket on there, is the motor, when I was giving it full power, it was like sputtering and it was crapping out. So I was thinking to myself, oh great, I just blew my motor, and you know, I have to go buy a new one. But no, it was actually because I didn't have an air filter. It's extremely important to have an air filter on. So I strapped an air filter on, and now this thing runs beautifully. It doesn't sputter anymore. It doesn't not want to start. It starts beautifully now. So it's not the permanent air filter I'm going to use. It's just a temporary one, just to make sure this thing works properly. So so yeah, this thing works awesome. It is so much fun. It flies down the road, and it also just spins tires in the grass, which is awesome. So yeah, everything works. And now I'm probably going to strip it down and grind the old paint off and give it a new paint job. So this is probably going to be the end of part 1. Part 2 is going to be, of course, me stripping it down, painting it, and all that stuff. And then part 3 is probably going to be me putting it all back together or something. And so look for part 2. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and have a nice day.